Hi guys! Today I will tell you how I lost it 600 bucks in Vietnam in just 2 minutes. But I will also tell you how to avoid similar mistakes and give you tips for choosing and booking accommodation. So this is my story. This was one of the biggest fails in last years, and believe me, it was not fun, even it can sound funny now. The question is, can you imagine the vampire from Nosferatu traveling to Las Vegas and staying there for a while? So this idea is very close to reality, what I experienced in Vietnam. Of course, I have stayed in hundreds of hotels, apartments, and homestays around the world. I know the tricks and I read the reviews, I compare photos, I do everything, but still it happened to me. And the worst part is that it's still happening to many travelers, even they are really experienced. So let me tell you my Nosferatu story, and I will show you exactly how I made this mistake, why accommodation scams like these are surprisingly common, especially across Southeast Asia, and most importantly, how to avoid losing hundreds of dollars yourself. It happened in Vietnam, in a beautiful city, Da Nang, and I was already really tired from traveling, so I just wanted to rent some room for all month and don't move, just comfortable, stay there. Well, I did my research and found some hotels, then I chose to one. I went there and asked them to show me the room. Okay, they showed me the room, it was nice, no problems at all, but then when I arrived in a few days later to move in, I was given a room that felt like a punishment. There was more mold than fresh air, really. And the room was supposed to be on the 7th floor, but it was actually on the second one. And this is a huge problem in Vietnam. Lower floors suffer from constant noise, scooters during the day, and karaoke at the night. And another great benefit, I had a tiny window facing the street that provided almost no natural light, but delivered maximum stereo noise, so very well. So this killer featuring of mold and noise, yes, you can imagine if you want to calm yourself and do some breathwork exercises. Here, I'm not sure if it's a good idea because when you are doing breathwork exercises in the middle of mold, it was literally like a kingdom of mold. Then I guess you are just risking even more your health. But let me continue in this story because this is not everything. And what is important to know that the same thing could happen to you and also in other countries. It's not just in Vietnam because similar practices exist also in countries like Thailand, Indonesia and others. So that's why it's worth knowing a few things beforehand so you don't end up like me, 600 bucks poorer, exhausted and with dark circles under your eyes. And in 2026, a lot of travelers make this mistake. Even those who know the risk sometimes fall into the trap anyway. Let me tell you why it's so deceptive and unfortunately so common. This is a problem we rarely encounter in the Western world. Hotels in Europe and America generally don't pull this particular trick. Of course, there are scammers everywhere, but the chances of this happening to you in Southeast Asia are absolutely high. So when I came to check in, naturally they wanted payment immediately. Since I paid by card, they added a 3% surcharge for using the terminal, something that happens almost everywhere in Vietnam. Some places charge 5% or even more. This isn't unique to Vietnam, but by early 2026, many businesses had increased their card fee from 3% to nearly 5% or even more. But guys, now things get serious. If this were a movie, for this moment, like I was entering my room, I would choose some soundtrack, something probably from G Unit. The moment I opened the door, the smell slapped me across the face. And how I mentioned you, this just one, a very tiny, very little window. Well, the dim lighting combined with the stench felt like a meeting of a satanic club in low-budget basement. Let's say the room technically had a window, but it was really so small that not even an 8-year-old Asian child could squeeze through it, which was actually reassuring because it reduced the risk of burglary. Then again, I doubt any thief could survive those conditions. 1 second after breaking in, they would probably throw up their hands, put on a respirator, and just run away. So there was so much mold that it looked like a rustic wall finish. In reality, it was simply Mother Nature at work, a combination of typhoons, humidity, and hotel staff indifference. The bathroom strongly resembled a gas chamber from Auschwitz. With a small prayer in my heart, I turned on the shower. Fortunately, Cyclone B wasn't waiting for me, just full smelling water. Given the circumstances, that felt like a victory. But let's turn to the window because it had another surprise waiting for me. Although tiny, it possessed a remarkable ability to destroy my sleep. A street floodlight shone directly through the window and onto my pillow all night long. You couldn't invent this even if you tried. I began to suspect that this place was actually an escape room because everything seemed totally perfect, like designed to torture human being and eliminate any trace of comfort. The shriveled cigarette-smelling curtains looked more decorative than functional, so the spotlight dancing on my pillow stayed with me all night. Well, I wanted to air out the smell, so I opened the window. Of course, I didn't expect a mosquito screen in Da Nang, where mosquitoes are everywhere, and there wasn't one. What did arrive was overwhelming noise. It started around 8 p.m. It's always worth checking the area around your hotel on Google Maps to see if there are bars nearby. But in Vietnam, even that isn't enough. Sometimes the most dangerous places are innocent-looking neighborhood convenience stores. At sunset, they transform into something entirely different. In my case, it was a Vietnamese family operation. The creator of this evil plan was a man, and he was probably over 80, maybe 90, 100, I'm not sure. Anyway, he brought out tiny plastic chairs, a massive speaker, and blasted what sounded like a playlist from some Romanian fun technopark for kids. And actually, this phenomenon is surprisingly very common. You will see locals in their 70s sitting silently next to each other, consuming this bizarre music while scrolling TikTok for hours. What destroys Gen Z in Europe is being enthusiastically enjoyed by Vietnamese retirees. So, Vietnam doesn't even allow maps to save you. A convenience store can become a nightclub, any house can become a karaoke bar, construction work can continue 24/7 despite official restrictions. Vietnamese workers simply seem stronger than the law. One tip that often helps: if you are booking a long-term accommodation, visit the area around 8 a.m. and then again around 8 p.m. You will get a realistic picture of both the building and the neighborhood. Unfortunately, these spontaneous family discos are harder to predict. Since they are not official businesses but rather family hobbies combining bad music and endless free time, they don't happen every day. You might visit on that one evening when the family's DJ is taking a day off. So now, guys, looking back, I honestly don't know what was worst, but the combination was devastatingly perfect. I personally hardly can imagine a more extreme escape room. After a sleepless night, I asked reception to change my room, but you can guess what happened. They offered me the only available alternative, and it was somehow even worse. Numb from the smell and intoxicated by mold, I started searching for a new accommodation. Well, Da Nang was in peak tourist season at the time, so finding something available wasn't that easy. And it was really important for me to choose something good because mentally I couldn't handle another bedroom. I needed a sleep. I needed a room that didn't feel like its walls had been soaked in arsenic. But yeah, let me return to the mold for a moment. I don't know if you have ever experienced this type of mold. 5 minutes inside the room and you could smell it in your hair afterward. Also in your clothes. I felt like even my phone smelled like a mold. Well, even though I already knew the answer, I decided to confront reception. The receptionist suddenly experienced a mysterious loss of English proficiency despite speaking fluent English earlier. Another favorite Vietnamese trick. English appears when it's useful and disappears when it's inconvenient. So, after a short conversation assisted by a Google Translate, she gave me the WhatsApp number of the hotel manager. I messaged her. Eventually, she agreed to refund part of the money, better than nothing, but it was still a significant amount of money thrown out that teeny, smelly window. So yes, I lost money, but my mental health, physical health and lungs, which felt like they were hanging by a thread, were worth more. And I wish this is end of story, but is not. This Moldy expedition had one final chapter. I had to throw away almost everything and buy new things because the mold smell had contaminated literally all my stuff. Even items and materials I thought couldn't possibly absorb odors somehow managed to absorb it. So my suitcase smelled worse than a homeless man's unwashed feet after 3 weeks. More than half of my monthly rent was gone. But the feeling of freedom and relief that hit me that moment I walked out the hotel was priceless. So, what should you watch out for when booking hotels in Vietnam? An important note, I wasn't staying in a budget hotels. This problem is very common in 3 or 4-star hotels. So first of all, check the photos carefully and look for windows. If you find one, zoom in and see what it faces and point number 2 is make sure the window faces outside because many times it can faces a hallway or an elevator, so avoid it. Number 3, always choose a higher floor when possible. Lower floors are noisy due to traffic during the day and bars or karaoke at night. Number 4, don't automatically reject a hotel if the cheapest room has no window. Many Vietnamese hotels offer multiple room categories. Sometimes a room with a window costs only $2 more per night. Number 5, don't underestimate the importance of natural light. You may think you will only sleep there, but living like you are in a casino with no sunrise, no sunset, or sense of a time, it really affects your mental health and surprisingly very quickly. Unless you are aiming for a Nosferatu vampire lifestyle, a window is must-have. Number 6. Mold is hard to detect from photos, but Guests often mention it in reviews. Booking and Agoda, they don't always show every review and sometimes limit what you see. So it's very good. Always double check Google reviews. That's usually where you will find the unfiltered truth. And number 7, what is important and what was also crucial for my story, if you are staying longer than a few days, inspect the building and room first. So insist on seeing the exact room you will receive. As I mentioned, the hotel often claim the room is occupied and show you another one instead. It's up to you if you want to take that risk. As my experience demonstrates, it might not be worth it. But the truth is that many hotels, they have a very weak moral compass and they will happily show you one room, promise that's what you will get, and then assign you a completely different room at check-in. So you will never have absolute certainty, but you can significantly reduce the risks. And last recommendation, guys, don't underestimate mold. I really heard many stories of people ending up in the hospital after just 2 nights because of the mold. So if you see mold in your room, definitely don't accept it and complain immediately. I know many travelers may disagree with me on this, because in some cities in Vietnam, finding a room without a mold can be as difficult as finding the Holy Grail. This endless hunt for good accommodation is part of the charm of Vietnam, which I absolutely love and always enjoy coming back to. However, if you know the right hacks and what to look out for, you will find good accommodation much more easily and quickly. And if you are planning a trip to Vietnam and have any questions, feel free to send me a message on Instagram or check out my ebook packed with travel tips that can help you on any continent. Enjoy your travels and see you soon, guys!